Most men think no contact just means ignoring her. But the truth is, silence isn't distance, it's depth. It's not you vanishing from her world, it's you returning to your own. See, the hardest part about heartbreak isn't the goodbye, it's the urge to fix it immediately, to reach for your phone, to explain yourself, to chase something that's no longer reaching back. But that impulse isn't clarity, it's panic. And panic doesn't build anything, it only destroys what's left of your dignity. In this video, we're not just talking about going silent. We're talking about what it means to be still and let time do what no text ever could. What happens when you stop chasing closure and start reclaiming your center, if that stirs something quiet but real inside you? Then like the video, subscribe to Stoic Station. Because you're not here to react, you're here to rise. Now, let's dive in. Part 1. Desperation is not strength. It's the illusion of control disguised as love. Right after a breakup, when the silence hits and the reality sets in, your instinct is to act. You feel like you're slipping through the cracks of something you weren't ready to let go of, so you reach for anything that might keep it alive. A text, a call, a carefully worded explanation. You tell yourself it's love, that if you just remind her how much you care, if you just say the right thing, she'll realize what she's losing. But beneath that urge is not love, it's fear. It's the fear of being left behind, the fear that you've been replaced, the fear that she's already forgotten how much you meant to her. And the most dangerous part? That fear wears the mask of logic. It convinces you that reaching out is noble, romantic, even necessary. But it's not. It's control disguised as connection. It's panic wrapped in the language of love. And here's where most men fall. They confuse that need to act with strength. They think showing up immediately proves dedication, that persistence equals love. But it doesn't. In fact, urgency rarely restores connection. It just reveals insecurity. Because when you chase, when you plead, when you over-explain, you're not building anything. You're broadcasting one message: I don't trust that silence can work in my favor. But here's the deeper truth. Real strength doesn't panic. It waits. It breathes. It doesn't rush to fix what isn't ready to be repaired. When you act from desperation, you don't just diminish your value in her eyes, you undermine your own ability to lead yourself through emotional chaos. You mistake motion for healing. But some wounds aren't meant to be covered right away. Some need to breathe in solitude before they can close clean. Think of it like this. Trying to force a relationship back together is like cranking an oven to max heat to bake something faster. You don't get a warm, beautiful result. You get something scorched, collapsed, ruined from the inside out. The same is true with love. You can't fast-track clarity. You can't microwave growth. You can't speed-bake regret. These things take time, not just for her, but for you too. And this is why silence after the breakup isn't weakness. It's wisdom. It's the first act of real power you have. Because instead of trying to control how she sees you, you return to seeing yourself. You give your nervous system a chance to settle. You give your heart a space to bleed without broadcasting it. And in doing so, you reclaim something deeper than the relationship. You reclaim your center. That doesn't mean it's easy. Sitting still while your mind is screaming to do something is one of the hardest things a man can do. It goes against your instincts. It makes you feel like you're failing. But that feeling isn't the truth. It's the withdrawal from a connection you once depended on for identity. The truth is, if you can make it through that storm of panic without reaching out, you'll meet a version of yourself you've never truly known before, one who doesn't need immediate reassurance to feel whole. Instead of sending that text, write down what you were going to say in a journal. Pour it out. Not for her, but for you. Go for a long walk without your phone. Let your body process what your mind is afraid to sit with. Let the emotions crash through you like a wave, and don't fight them. Just don't follow them. Because what survives after the wave passes, that's the part of you that's real. That's the version she never got to meet. And if she ever comes back, that's the man she'll remember. Not the one who begged, not the one who couldn't sit with silence, but the one who grew inside it. You don't need to prove your love in this moment. You need to prove your composure. You need to remind yourself that the connection you had doesn't disappear because you stepped back. It becomes more visible in your absence, and more importantly, your value doesn't come from your availability. It comes from your restraint. So take a breath. Let the silence do what words never could. Let your stillness become your message, not to convince her to come back, but to remind yourself that love worth having can survive a pause. And if it can't, then it was never love in the first place. It was attachment. It was fear. It was the illusion of control dressed up as devotion. Real strength after heartbreak isn't loud. It's not reactive. It's not in how fast you fix the situation. It's in your ability to hold steady when everything inside you wants to act. Because the man who waits, not with bitterness but with quiet clarity, is the man she won't be able to forget. Not because he forced her to remember, but because his absence finally said everything his words never could. Part 2. No contact isn't punishment. It's emotional recovery for both of you. There's a misconception among men that going no contact is a clever tactic, a form of reverse psychology, that if you disappear long enough, she'll miss you, panic, and come running back. But if that's your goal, you've already missed the point. No contact isn't a manipulation tool. It's not about making her chase you. It's about making space for both of you to feel, to reflect, and to recover what was lost long before the breakup. Clarity. You're not stepping away to punish her. You're stepping back because you finally realized something had to change. Not just between you and her, but inside you. Because somewhere along the way, you stopped being centered. You gave away pieces of yourself to keep the relationship alive. You adjusted, compromised, over-explained, and tried to be everything she needed, until you became unrecognizable to the man you used to be. And what's worse, she felt it too. She didn't just lose attraction, she lost the grounded presence you once had. And so did you. That's why no contact exists. Not as silence coated in resentment, but as the oxygen mask after emotional suffocation. It's the moment when you say, enough, not out of bitterness, but out of necessity. Because continuing to chase someone while your identity unravels is not love, it's slow self-erasure. The stillness that no contact brings is not emptiness, it's sacred. It's the pause that allows your nervous system to recalibrate. It gives you room to ask questions you couldn't hear over the noise of the relationship. What did I sacrifice to keep this alive? Why did I ignore the parts of me that were asking to be seen? And most importantly, who am I when I'm not constantly trying to be loved? These aren't easy questions. They aren't meant to be. But they're essential. Because until you rediscover your center, every move you make will be a reaction to the pain, not a creation of peace. And peace is what makes a man magnetic again, not the performance of being strong, but the embodiment of someone who doesn't need approval to feel whole. No contact also gives her something she didn't know she needed, space to actually feel your absence. Not the version where you're half gone, still liking her posts, still replying to late-night texts, but the version where you disappear with dignity and stop filling in the blanks for her. That's when the contrast hits. The contrast between the man she remembers chasing her and the man who's now silent, not because he's angry, but because he's evolving. And here's the thing. Women don't just miss presence. They miss stability. They miss strength that doesn't need to shout. When you step out of her orbit and start rebuilding your own world, it forces her to ask herself questions she never had to ask before. Why hasn't he reached out? Has he moved on? Was I wrong about how strong he really is? That shift matters, but not for the sake of making her want you again. It matters because you're no longer reacting from wounded pride. You're now responding from reclaimed power. You're becoming the man who doesn't explain himself in chaos, but allows silence to speak for him. And while she's processing, so are you. Use that time not to stalk her updates, not to mark days on a calendar waiting for a message, but to return to your roots. Start creating again. Reconnect with people who see you clearly. Build your body. Sharpen your mind. Go back to the things you abandoned, because the man who chased her wasn't whole, but the man who rebuilds in silence, he becomes unforgettable. You don't need to tell her you've changed. She'll see it in the absence of noise. She'll feel it in the space where your validation used to live. And if she comes back, it won't be because you played a perfect game. It'll be because your stillness reflected something she didn't expect. A man who no longer needs to be chosen to know his worth. No contact isn't punishment. It's preservation. It's what happens when a man finally decides that his peace is more important than being understood right away. It's how you protect the emotional ground you're trying to rebuild on. And the men who understand this don't just survive heartbreak, they rise from it with a strength that makes the past version of themselves unrecognizable. And maybe, just maybe, that's what she needed to see all along. Not a man begging to be heard, but a man who became silent long enough to finally hear himself again. Part 3. Time doesn't make her forget, it makes her feel. What most men don't understand is this. Time isn't working against you. It's not pulling her further away. It's not erasing her feelings or wiping the slate clean. Time, in the aftermath of a breakup, is not your enemy. It's your greatest ally, if you know how to let it work for you. The male instinct is to panic when the days stretch on without a single word from her. You interpret the silence as a verdict. You think every passing hour is confirmation that she's moved on, forgotten you, or replaced you. But women don't always move on in straight lines. And more importantly, they don't feel in the same timeline as you do. In most cases, while you're sitting in the rawness of it, grappling with the ache, the questions, the emptiness, she's in a state of emotional relief. At first, she may even feel empowered by the space. She might laugh more, go out more, post things that seem intentionally bright and carefree, and that can crush you if you're still measuring progress by how visible the pain is on her face. But relief isn't healing, it's just the first layer. It's what happens when someone steps out of emotional intensity and into novelty. But novelty fades. The distractions run out. The attention doesn't last. And in that quiet space that follows, something unexpected happens. Your absence begins to take shape. What was once a welcome break now becomes an unsettling emptiness. And not because you did anything, but because you didn't. Because you stayed quiet, because you didn't rush to correct her feelings or defend your worth or prove that you're still available. Time begins to work in your favor, not because it makes her forget, but because it clears the emotional fog she's been standing in. The frustration that once colored her memories begins to lose its grip. The anger that ended the relationship no longer burns as hot. And when those things fall away, what rises up are the memories that carry weight, the quiet steadiness of your presence, the way her nervous system relaxed when you held her, the sense of emotional grounding she may have taken for granted. But that doesn't happen in week 1 or 2. That depth only emerges when there's been enough stillness for the truth to surface on its own. You don't plant seeds and dig them up every day to see if they've grown. You trust the process. You let the roots do their quiet work in the dark. This is why breaking no contact too soon doesn't just delay healing, it can erase the very shift you were waiting for. Because the moment you interrupt her process with a message, a call, a reminder of your presence, you rob her of the opportunity to discover that presence for herself. She's not given the space to miss you organically. She's pulled back into the dynamic where you're still trying to manage the emotional outcome. But when you stay silent, something subtle and powerful begins to unfold. The silence isn't a void, it's a mirror. And in that mirror, she starts to see you not through the lens of the last argument or the messy ending, but through the full picture. The steady partner, the man who listened, the man who once made her feel safe. And in that clarity, a new question starts to rise in her, not as a thought, but as a feeling in her body. It's not, does he miss me, or is he seeing someone else? It's deeper. It's, was it really broken, or was I just overwhelmed? That question doesn't come from nostalgia. It comes from the kind of reflection only time and distance can create. It's not manufactured by you, it's earned by silence, and it's more powerful than any words you could have spoken. So when doubt creeps in and tells you she's forgotten you, remember this: real memories don't fade. They just need space to re-emerge without distortion. You don't need to convince her of your worth. You just need to trust that what was real will survive the silence and even become clearer through it. That's the strength of time. It doesn't erase you, it reveals you. And if she comes to that clarity without your prompting, without your voice reminding her, then it's not because you made her feel it. It's because she had to feel it on her own. And that kind of realization, it sticks. You don't need to control the timing. You just need to honor the stillness, because the man who can wait, not passively but purposefully, becomes a man remembered not for his noise, but for his depth. Part 4. Your disappearance isn't loss. It's the weight of her choice becoming real. There comes a moment in every breakup where the energy shifts, and it doesn't happen in a dramatic scene or through some carefully crafted message. It happens the moment you stop reaching out, the moment you stop checking in, the moment you choose silence, not as revenge, but as a boundary. Not because you're trying to make her miss you, but because you've finally decided to stop cushioning the blow of her decision. And whether she shows it or not, that changes everything. Up until that point, she felt in control. She made the choice to leave. She believed she could step away without really feeling the full consequence. Why? Because you were still emotionally available. Because you were still orbiting, responding, lingering just close enough to be felt, but not far enough to be missed. That kind of presence gives her the illusion that nothing has really changed, that she can have the space she wanted without losing the connection she no longer wanted to tend. But when you go quiet, truly quiet, something inside her begins to shift, and it's not instant. It doesn't show up in her texts or her stories or her surface-level confidence. It arrives slowly, almost invisibly, as a growing awareness. An awareness that she's no longer being emotionally buffered, that the version of you she was used to, the version who would check in, who would react, who would show up on cue, isn't there anymore. And that absence doesn't just feel different, it feels real. Your disappearance isn't a loss, it's a mirror, one that reflects the weight of her decision in full. When you remove your presence, you remove her safety net, and what's left is exactly what she asked for: distance. But now, that distance isn't just physical, it's emotional, and it's quiet in a way that can't be ignored. There are no more soft landings, no more emotional cushioning, just silence, space, and the stark reality of what she chose. This is the part where most men falter. They misread the silence. They confuse her lack of response with closure. They let impatience convince them that nothing is happening, so they cave. They send the message. They call just to check in. They tell themselves they're being brave, but in truth, they're interrupting something sacred, because what she needs right now isn't more of your effort. It's the absence of it. It's the contrast. It's easy to chase. It's easy to stay half available under the guise of strength. What's hard is sitting in the discomfort of doing nothing and trusting that it's enough, that the space you've created is saying what words never could. You made a choice, and now you have to live with it. And when she does, when she actually begins to feel the weight of your absence, it doesn't come as a thought. It shows up in unexpected ways, in the quiet moments, in the late nights, in the conversations with friends that feel emptier than they used to. It's in the realization that there's no one checking on her anymore, that she's no longer the center of someone's world, and that the man she assumed would always be there isn't. That recognition doesn't need drama to land. It just needs stillness. And that stillness is your responsibility to maintain, not to manipulate, but to protect what you've begun building in yourself. Because if you interrupt her process, you give her relief. You rescue her from the very discomfort that might have brought clarity. And the cost of that rescue is high. You lose the emotional impact of your absence. You soften the edge she was starting to feel. Silence, when held with dignity, is not passive. It's active strength. It's what makes her reevaluate, not just the breakup, but her assumptions about you. It's what challenges the story she told herself when she walked away. Because when the man who used to chase her disappears, not in bitterness, but with grounded resolve, she starts to question whether she understood you at all. Let that question grow. Let the space you've created do its work. You don't need to be the one to bring her back to clarity. She'll either arrive there on her own, or she won't. But either way, you've done something powerful. You've let the emotional weight of her decision be hers to carry. And that weight, that's not your loss. That's her reckoning. Let it happen. Part 5. If she comes back, make sure she's meeting the man you've become. There may come a day when her name reappears on your screen, not in a moment of weakness or confusion, but after silence, distance, and the weight of time have done their work. It might come suddenly, a message out of nowhere, or it might be subtle, an old song shared, a question that doesn't need to be asked, a quiet attempt to re-enter your orbit. Whatever the form, it will likely carry one thing you didn't expect from her before: hesitation. Because something has shifted, not just in her, but in you. And when that moment arrives, it won't be the moment to celebrate. It will be the moment to decide, to breathe, to check in with the man you've become. Because there's a quiet danger in being contacted by the person who once walked away. You're tempted to lean into relief. You're tempted to forget how far you've come just because you finally got what you wanted. But if you're not careful, you'll step right back into the dynamic that broke you. So pause. Don't let the sound of her voice, the softness of her presence, or the weight of your own longing make you forget everything you endured in her absence. The late nights, the silence, the doubt, the rebuilding. The strength it took not to reach out, not to explain, not to beg to be chosen again. That wasn't just survival. That was transformation. That was your soul teaching itself how to stand without needing to be seen. If she returns, let her return to that version of you, the one who isn't waiting at the door, but who's been busy building something sacred behind it. Let her feel the difference. Let her see the quiet in your eyes that wasn't there before, the calm in your voice, the unshakable stillness in your presence. She might not recognize it immediately, but she will feel it. And if her return is real, that feeling will challenge her. Because now, the man she's coming back to isn't the man she left. He's not trying to be accepted. He's not eager to erase the past, just to feel connection again. He knows what he brings. He doesn't need to be understood because he understands himself. And that's a man who can't be picked up where he was dropped. He has to be met where he stands now. This doesn't mean you hold bitterness. It means you hold boundaries. You don't welcome her back on memory alone. You let her prove, through action and patience, that she respects the man who rose from the silence she helped create. You don't do it to punish her. You do it to honor the man you fought to become. If she truly regrets her decision, she won't run. She won't expect instant forgiveness. She'll understand that growth demands reciprocity. She'll move slower. She'll listen more. She'll show you, not tell you, that she's ready to meet you at the level you've now reached. Because love that returns without friction, without reflection, without accountability, is likely to leave the same way it did before, easily, quickly, and without warning. But love that comes back after time, distance, and truth. That kind of love doesn't come back to escape the past. It comes back to honor what was almost lost, and to build something that couldn't have been built before. And maybe the greatest test of your healing will be this. Not whether she reaches back, but how you respond when she does. Whether you fold and return to what's familiar, or whether you stand in who you've become and require her to meet you there. So if the day comes when she finds her way back, don't open the door just because it's knocking. Open it if it feels aligned with the man you are now. Open it if her presence feels like partnership, not rescue. And only if her return is rooted in recognition, not nostalgia. Because you didn't go through all that silence, all that pain, all that growth, just to be someone's fallback. You didn't disappear to be missed. You disappeared to rebuild. And if she's back, she's not walking into the same story. She's meeting the man who rewrote it. Let me give it to you straight. What I've shared with you so far isn't just theory. It's a roadmap for men who are ready to stop reacting and start rising. When a woman pulls away, your first instinct is to do more. Explain. Reconnect. Save it. But the truth is, desperation isn't love. It's fear dressed up as devotion. And if you act on it, you destroy the very thing you're trying to protect. Your presence, your value, your center. That's why no contact isn't a tactic. It's not some clever trick to trigger her emotions. It's emotional recovery for both of you. It's you stepping back not to punish her, but to reclaim the version of yourself that you lost while orbiting her world. The man who was once grounded, but forgot. Time won't erase you. It refines you. It clears the emotional fog from her side too. And if she remembers you, it won't be because you chased her. It'll be because your stillness forced her to see the full weight of what she walked away from. You disappear not to get noticed, but so she can finally sit with her own choice, without your energy softening her doubts. And if she reaches out again, it should never feel like the victory. It should feel like the test. Because the real win is becoming a man she has to meet again for the first time. Not because you changed for her, but because you finally remembered who you are without her. So let her feel the silence. Let her face her decision. Let her wonder who you've become. And if she comes back, make sure the man who opens the door is the one she never expected, but can no longer ignore. That's your edge. That's your strength. And that's your new standard. If something in this message stirred something in you, let it stay. Like the video, subscribe to Stoic Station, and most of all, remember this. Your silence is strength. It's the kind of strength she'll feel long after the noise fades.